Just before the monster could strike Red, a smoke bomb dropped out of nowhere, covering up the area. When the air was clear, the Lord realized the party had disappeared. Meanwhile, in a hideout nearby, the mysterious lady from before, along with her friends, was thanked by Red and the party for saving them. The lady introduced herself as Grossa, the leader of a resistance force that rebelled against the will of the Lord. When Ydra asked about the possible complications it could cause due to the Lord's ability, Grossa explained that their hideout was located outside the range of his power, so they could properly operate without being interfered with by the mad tyrant. The resistance decided to begin their own questioning, asking the party why they were after the lord of the town, and after hearing their reason, Grossa decided she and her friends would help them on their mission. When Ydra asked why they were so desperate, Grossa explained that their town used to be bustling with positive vibes and a very good market. However, after the Lord kicked off his tyrannical rule, it had become unbearable for them, leaving their town a shadow of its former self. After hearing the sad backstory, Red immediately agreed to help, promising Grossa and the resistance that he would do everything in his power to stop the Lord. A few moments later, the team began devising a plan to face the tyrant. They got a list of blacklisted actions, which automatically spawned a monster from the Lord's arsenal, and trained themselves to not fall victim to any surprise attack. When Red proposed they simply blasted the Lord's manor using Kizuna Kaiser from far away, Ydra refused, calling it a stupid action that would destroy the town. They then proceeded to a group fighting session, where Red and Mist would fight while supporting each other to prevent any of the Lord's monsters from attacking them behind their backs. However, the training didn't go as expected due to Red and Mist lacking chemistry, causing them to unnecessarily mess up and interfere with each other's moves. When Mist attacked Red out of frustration, he was calmed down by Teltina, who coaxed him into syncing with Red, surprising Ydra. Later that night at the bath, Ydra wondered about the nature of the relationship between Teltina and Mist. However, she accidentally let out her curiosity, reaching Teltina, who redirected the question to Ydra and Red. The girls decided to ignore the questions and instead began to talk about how it was their first time sharing a bath with someone of the same age. Although Teltina still couldn't believe the better-endowed Ydra was her mate, Ydra had insecurities of her own, believing Teltina had more appeal. When Ydra asked Teltina why she chose to work with her, the daughter of an alleged failed royal scepter, Teltina explained that she was drawn in by her dedication and hard work to get back the title, which was very clear. Before long, the girls had finished their discussion, and Teltina was on her way back to the hideout. She came across Red along the way and had a chat with him, discussing why he was so insistent on protecting the bonds of others even though he was a lone ranger. After hearing that it was simply his passion to protect people and their relationships, Teltina smiled, thanking Red and asking him to protect her and her bond-filled world. Meanwhile, in a hidden part of the area, Mist saw and overheard the conversation, causing him to fall into a pit of jealousy. After Teltina deceived Red, informing him that the bath was empty even though Ydra was there, Mist decided to follow, preparing to get revenge. While Red and Ydra were stuck in an embarrassing situation, as they were both together in the bath with only their birthday suits on, Mist went over to Red's clothes and took out his changing gear, upset that he had made Teltina smile in a way he had never seen before. The next day, when the plan to attack the Lord had set into motion, Red attempted to morph. However, he was unsuccessful because of his missing gear. Due to the shock, Red panicked, causing him to shout, which was a blacklisted action. Before he could react, he was blasted out of the manor by a monster. Seeing that Red was knocked into the nearby canal, Ydra jumped out and attempted to save him. Meanwhile, Mist, who had successfully gotten his revenge, drew his sword and declared that he didn't need the help of Red and his useless bonds. After Ydra pulled Red out, the ranger thanked his companion for her help. However, he was still in shock, wondering where he had lost his unique gear. In the building, Teltina requested they fall back as the plan had failed. However, Mist, who didn't want to go back to the plan, refused, claiming he could handle the threat as he was the hero, not Red. He immediately began attacking the monsters, switching his sword with different elements and holding his own. After his first batch of underlings was defeated, the Lord acknowledged Mist's powers, recognizing him as the first person to use the holy sword in over a millennia. In a brief flashback, Mist remembered being alone and tattered on the street. However, he was picked up by Teltina, who promised to stay with him forever so long as he remained true to himself. The Lord created a new set of monsters, which Mist fought. However, they were only decoys as the tyrant launched an attack on Teltina as well. When Mist saw the attack, he immediately leaped in and protected the princess. However, he lost his sword and was immediately hounded by the monsters, causing him to take damage continuously. When he apologized to Teltina for his rash action and promised to create an opening so they could escape, Teltina assured him they would be fine, as they had allies. Just then, Red and Ydra appeared as the ranger kicked away the monsters surrounding Mist and Teltina, while the mage cast a barrier spell, giving them temporary protection. The pair apologized for coming late, and Ydra began the healing process for Mist to get him back into shape. When Red attempted to help him up, Mist angrily pushed the ranger away, causing the gear he stole to fall. After seeing his missing gear on the ground, Red wondered why Mist had it and assumed it was simply the hero wanting to feel like a Walmart Power Ranger as well. However, Teltina wasn't buying it and asked Mist to tell the truth. The hero admitted he was scared of losing his princess to an otherworlder. Although Ydra was now struggling to keep the barrier up and waiting for the group to wrap up their emotional yap session, Teltina decided to take it slow, giving Mist an entire speech, promising the hero that he was irreplaceable. She assured him that no matter what, he would be her first, and he need not worry about Red. After getting that out of the way, Mist decided to settle his differences with Red, just in the nick of time, as Ydra could no longer keep her barrier up. Red transformed, and alongside Mist, he defeated the multiple monsters created by the tyrant. With his minions gone, the Lord was left unprotected, allowing Mist and Red to knock his lights out. The team celebrated their victory. However, in a surprising twist of events, the tyrant wasn't done, as the Monoseed inside him went berserk, posing a bigger danger to the town. The Monoseed went berserk, and the Lord turned into a hideous floating large head, hovering over the city. Upon seeing the impending doom, Grossa asked the resistance to get the other citizens to safety, worried that the hideous monster above them would decimate the entire town. On the other side of town, Teltina and Ydra wondered what they should do. However, Red assured them there was no problem, as villains turning into large monsters after they were defeated was a very generic trope in the Power Rangers business. He summoned the Kizuna Kaiser and took the group into the machine. Using its power, the group took the hideous monster into space, where they would ultimately defeat it without causing more damage to the town. After getting the monster high enough, Red summoned the Ultimate Bond Sword, a weapon he was sure would get rid of their problem. With the help of Mist, who was initially reluctant, they swung the sword before the monster could attack and destroyed the Monoseed monster, before returning back to Earth with the knocked-out Lord and its remnants. When they got down, Teltina explained that Monoseeds didn't destroy easily, and would only continue regenerating into monsters, so they would either need to kill the host or extract the substance. When Red asked how they could do the latter, Teltina displayed a Monoseed of her own, which spawned a majestic white wolf that would swallow the Lord and immediately spit out the disgusting tyrant. When Ydra checked out the body, she realized the wolf had gotten rid of the Monoseed. Ydra and Red could not contain their excitement beside the wolf, and immediately began petting it, causing Mist to complain about their rudeness. However, when Teltina offered him a chance to pet the monster as well, the hero refused, requesting that Teltina pet him instead. When she believed the group had enough fun with her wolf, Teltina summoned it back into her. Just then, a mysterious individual appeared out of nowhere. He was dressed like a poorly fed jester and claimed himself to be Abu Dhabi, a high-ranking royal demon. When Red asked what a royal demon was, Ydra explained that they were direct descendants of the Great Demon, whose goal was to release the Demon Queen and antagonize humanity. Abu Dhabi claimed the group was pesky for taking down his Monoseed operations. After hearing he was responsible for the spread of Monoseeds, Teltina immediately became upset, remembering the special person she lost to its unnecessarily aggressive nature. The demon was upset as well and decided to attack the group. However, they easily parried his attacks, forcing him back. The demon was disappointed that the group still had fight in them, so he summoned monsters that would do some of the dirty work for him. Upon seeing the monsters, Red and the group were shocked to see that Grossa and the rest of the resistance had turned into monsters. When they asked Abu Dhabi what he did, the demon explained that he simply gave power to the people who wanted to protect their town. The group immediately began their attack, with Red taking on Abu Dhabi, while Mist and Ydra took down the Monoseed-infested citizens so Teltina could use her wolf to get them back to normal. After a while, Teltina began to struggle as she was taking in too much mana. However, she refused to stop, claiming she would heal all the citizens even if it would kill her. As Abu Dhabi and Red continued their battle, Abu Dhabi began to laugh, which irritated Red. He jested that the people who were once righteous had given in to their desires and turned into a mindless stampede, further irritating Red, who claimed they were simply being influenced by the demon. As the argument continued, Red likened the desire to free his mother, the demon queen, to a bond, and remembered that even villains could have bonds, causing him to reduce his aggression. However, he would charge back fully, claiming that any bond that compromised that of others was not a bond worth keeping. He then activated a power-up and charged towards Abu Dhabi with a strong punch. However, he was stopped as the demon sent multiple bombs, forcing the ranger back. When the demon had enough, he powered up himself and summoned a large weapon, claiming he was no longer going to drag on with the other worlder, as he had a very terrible experience with them. He attempted to hit Red with his sun-shaped weapon to flatten the ranger. However, in a quick-thinking action, Mist pushed Red away and took the attack, causing him to be blasted into the ground. Although he had survived by absorbing the attack's mana using his sword, Mist was out of service for the rest of the battle. After remembering the good and bad times he had with Mist, Red immediately boiled up, going into a berserk state of his own. Claiming he wouldn't let anybody else die on his watch, he blasted Abu Dhabi away and prepared to get rid of the demon permanently. However, just then, a mysterious figure appeared and cast a spell that took all the loose mana monsters and spawned multiple tentacle-like arms from the ground. Upon seeing the figure, Ydra was upset, as it was the new royal scepter who had come to save her. After seeing that the number of his opponents had doubled, Abu Dhabi decided it was time for him to take a hike, as he bid the group goodbye and ran for his life. Later that day, Teltina had successfully removed all the berserk mana seeds and was imbuing some of the excessive mana in her into Mist's sword. While the hero begged Teltina to forgive him for leaving her in such a situation, Ydra talked with Grossa, who appreciated the group for their efforts to save her town. Red, who was still bothered about Abu Dhabi's comment on otherworlders, decided to ask Ydra if she was familiar with there being any otherworlder before him. She explained that some texts claimed the hero who first sealed the Demon Queen was an otherworlder, so it wasn't unlikely that the demon had met him. While Red began to spam more questions Ydra could barely answer, the Royal Scepter interrupted their flirting session and informed them they would be going to the capital to treat Teltina and study the mana seeds. When Ydra asked how they would make it on time, the Royal Scepter reminded Ydra she wasn't as useless as her predecessor, as she brought out a mysterious liquid, which formed a magical circle that teleported them to the Sorcery Tower of Avalost. At the Sorcery Tower, the Royal Scepter healed Teltina, causing Mist to mindlessly leap onto her in joy. After the dumb hero was thrown out of the room, Teltina was left to rest while Ydra talked with the Royal Scepter. She asked the Royal Scepter, Shahua, how she was able to heal Teltina. Shahua explained that she was studying mana seeds as well, but with the support of the royal family. After hearing Shahua's analysis, Ydra realized that even some members of the royal family used mana seeds. When their discussion was done, the Royal Scepter offered Red and Ydra bed space in the tower, as they would only be able to give the king a report when Teltina was up and fine. While on their way to the rooms, Ydra explained the working process of the magical hierarchy to Red. Although there was no control over the use of magic, people needed certificates to be able to study and do research on magic, including her, who had a certificate of her own. The only exception was Shahua, who had full control over not just the use, but certification as well, giving her ultimate power. Shahua concurred with Ydra's analysis. However, that was the end of the topics they agreed on, as Ydra proposed a plan that offered non-magic users magical devices to make their lives easier. The idea was frowned upon by Shahua, who claimed it was the same lack of oversight and unnecessary ideals that had cost Ydra's father his title. She then asked for Red's opinion on the matter, and in what seemed like a shocking turn of events, Red agreed with Shahua that the plan was too dangerous and seemed impossible. However, before he could complete his statement, Ydra was already hurt that Red didn't support her, causing her to get on her witch broom and take flight into the night. She remembered the hate she and her father received as she flew away. However, her flashback was interrupted by Red, who came after her on a Kaiser beast. She demanded he leave her alone since he believed her dream was childish, but Red refused, jumping off his beast onto Ydra, causing them to crash into the snow. Although their posture after the crash was awkward, the two didn't seem to care as they continued their argument, with Ydra claiming Red had betrayed her trust. However, Red refused, explaining that although he agreed the plan seemed impossible, it was for that reason he was dedicated to ensuring she realized her dream. After clearing out the fog between their bond, Red helped Ydra up and promised her he'd make sure her dream was achieved. While on their way home, he explained that Shahua's licensing idea wasn't bad, as it had kept his previous world safe to a degree. Although Ydra was reluctant to agree with Shahua, Red convinced her that her only way to achieve her dream was by working together with the royal scepter. Later that night, while Ydra took a bath, she held up one of the mana crystals she had gotten before and wondered how it came to be. When she got confused, it reminded her of Red, causing her to blush. Just then, out of nowhere, Red dropped into the bath as well, leading to further confusion as the pair scrambled around in the bath. When Red tried to make a run for it, he slipped on a rug and hit his head, leaving Ydra the most confused she had ever been in her life. Some moments earlier, Red had gone up to a balcony to have a chat with Mist. He thanked Mist for saving his life, and although the hero was shy in receiving Red's appreciation, he had opened up better to Red. Suddenly, Red began to glow, and before he knew it, he had disappeared from the balcony, leaving Mist astounded. In real time, Red explained to Ydra that the teleportation was most likely just his Kizuna warp, an ability he and his friends from the other world used to reach each other over long distances. After thinking about why it suddenly activated, it immediately occurred to Ydra that the Kizuna warp responded to the mana crystal. When Red heard her assumption, he proposed that they leave the bath, as he could barely concentrate with Ydra's jugs jumping around. When they got to Ydra's room, Red explained that his master from his previous world had described bond energy as the power from creation, so it wasn't absurd that it was able to sync with mana. After the pair began brainstorming, they realized the two worlds might have been linked in ways they couldn't imagine. Deciding to further her research on the topic, Ydra locked the room door and pounced on Red, informing him that there would be no rest for him that night. The next morning, when the group had an audience with the king, Ydra and Red could barely look at each other after remembering the events that occurred overnight. After seeing the awkward tension, Teltina began to tease the duo, asking them if anything special had happened, which caused a minor scuffle in the group. When Shahua saw the group and the weird topic they discussed, she wondered how they were, ballsy enough to do that in front of the king's chambers. Before long, the meeting with the king, his first prince, and the head of security began, as Teltina explained what she had learned about the mana seeds and how dangerous they were. When the king proposed she leave it for the royal scepter to deal with, Teltina explained that she had the ability to handle the matter, convincing the king to allow her to continue her adventures and granting her the duty of eliminating the mana seeds. She stood firm on her request. When Red made a silent remark about how nice the king was and how smoothly the discussion had gone, he was immediately shut down by the prince, who rejected the proposal and requested the king allow them to integrate the power into the military to strengthen their forces. After Shahua agreed it could work, once she had gotten more knowledgeable about the mana seeds, the king agreed to incorporate it. However, those out of control would be left to Teltina and her group. After the king left, the prince, who was very evidently the antagonist of this arc, took shots at Teltina, asking her not to disgrace the royal family. Although she controlled herself well and remained composed, he furthered his attack by mentioning their brother Alteo, who was harmed by the mana seed. She retained her calmness and requested the prince keep Alteo out of his mouth. Meanwhile, Shahua, who was leaving the area, was approached by Ydra, who tried to offer her a proposition. The girl struggled to come to an agreement. However, Shahua promised to hear Ydra out if she helped her with a little task. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.